All right, class, so let's go into week 4. I'm sorry, week 11, group 4. Fernando, Alexandra, Chance, and Brittany. All right, so let's start with Fernando's piece. Here we have Mexican flan, and I think this has definitely come a long way, and it works very nice as a set too. I like the contrast between how straightforward, didactic this looks with something that's a little bit more illustrative here. So let's kind of see what we can improve upon. First of all, I like this title treatment here, works nice. I would like to see this aligned somehow, or maybe, see how this can be a title that can have a little bit more structure for the overall page, if you will. And then maybe have directions aligned to that as well, because here we're not seeing where it's aligning and where directions aligning. So one way to do this is to align to the left. I like how ingredients is nicely aligned here with the pull quote. So that has this nice movement going on. Another thing I would say is maybe create a little bit more space in between your sentence here for your pull quote. So just add a little bit more leading, right? Just kind of open it up. I like that you've used a different quote, if you will, or the different font, just something more handwritten to add a more personal touch to the denotative version. So that's nice. But overall, I think this looks good. It just needs a little bit more alignment, and I think you should be in a good place. For your Mexican flan, I think you are in a good direction where you started to place things a little bit more upright. So step 1, step 2, step 3, that playfulness works out really nicely for the directions. I am struggling over here with how very tight this text is, and it is very problematic to read. Same with this pull quote here by Gordon Ramsay. So I'm wondering if there's a way to, maybe bring in the pull quote kind of in the same way you have the round edge of the ingredients here. So that way your whole layout will have this circular motion to it. So that way we kind of have this consistency. Right now this diagonal really breaks that harshly, right? And I understand Gordon Ramsay is a very harsh critic, but let's try to bring in some of that bold treatment, maybe in a more rounded path of type like so, maybe around here or in between here. Let's just be a little bit more intentional with the type, and really let's try to fix this part here. I'm not really sure I can read it properly. I'm not sure what it says. Yeah, sorry, the kerning is too tight and I can't read it. I'm guessing it's the directions, or it's I don't know really. So let's just bring in a little bit more space in between the words and the letter forms here. All right, and again, we want to make sure there's no upside down type so we can read. So I think this looks nice with your ingredients here, very clean and clear way of reading. Same with your instructions. All right, and I like how Mexican flan is just kind of a different look and feel altogether, right? So let's just work on these two right here. So the pull quote and whatever text this is. All right, let's move to Alexandra's work. So this is pumpkin red. This looks pretty nice as a set, I would say. The colors are kind of complementary. We're doing the white background with the maroon as well as the orange with the pumpkin here. Maybe bring in some white type to kind of break up the, I would say, the monotony of this piece here. Maybe bring in some white type here, or bring in white type for the instructions, or do both. But let's just kind of bring in some connotation into this area right here. And I think with the white type, you get that a little bit better. I'm not so sure if this is, I'm reading this as this being your connotative and this being your denotative, unless I'm mistaken. But correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm gonna go ahead and provide some feedback for you. I think this looks nice how you've mimicked the pumpkin lines or drawing. It looks very clean, right? One thing I would just say is that we usually read step 1 here, so we kind of read this way as opposed to going like this. It's might be a little bit too tricky. So see if maybe you want to direct your reader in a way where it's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, 5, 6, 7, that way. Or step 1, step 2, step 3. I would say go this way. This is how we read, all right? And start with step 1 here, all right? And then your ingredients list looks nice too. Just careful with how close you're getting to the edge. Maybe instructions up here, so it's not too close. And I think this looks nice for your ingredients palette over here. The only thing I'm missing is a pull quote. I'm not sure I see that anywhere here, so maybe that's the missing part. But I think overall this does look good. I'm just wondering if there's a way to, you know, either lighten up that orange over that black type, or use white. So play around with that a little bit more. This version here is nice as well. Just careful with how close you're getting to the edges here. There is an ample amount of white space here, so maybe bring this up a tad bit, right? And see if there's an area for you to bring in a pull quote, right? And I do actually like maybe some kind of a stump here for your pumpkin. See if there's some way you can do that with your type, whether it's the pull quote or it's the word ingredients, and then bringing instructions here somewhere, or that. So just be a little bit more intentional with your alignment. I would say here, again, it's looking a little too close to the edge, so that's something I would just caution you about. Maybe you can break up the line of this sentence a little bit more, maybe a few words down to the second line. I'm not sure why the words are, you know, aligning here onto the right. Maybe align to the center. Try that and see if that works, you know, because this is a very centered layout here. So just bring that overall consistency to your body copy here, because we do have a very centered movement happening with the illustration here of the pumpkin, with the instructions and the title. All right, so but let's just bring in the pull quote for both versions. All right, but I think overall this is a nice set to look at. All right, let's go to Chance's work. So Chance is doing the White Russian. So far this is looking very nice and clean. I like how you have a very different treatment for both. We have a more sans serif version and a serif version here. I'm just going to go into your denotative and just kind of see if there's anything that we can change. But I like how you have the contrast and the scale with this type along with this scale of body copy as well as the ingredients. So I think that works. One thing I would just say is just add a little bit more space in between your sentences. It's a little too tight, so maybe bring in some leading space in between, all right? And I would just caution you for your widow here, maybe bring in 2 to 3 words extra, so that way we don't have this little line break here with just one word. End a sentence with at least 3 to 4 words, right? I'd say instructions and ingredients might want to have a similar approach as to how we lay them out. So maybe have instructions in bold as you have with ingredients. And then I would also say, see where you want to align this paragraph here. I think aligning instructions here to the edge of the H is nice. See if we can align this maybe areas here of the W, or maybe it is the one, it is the H, or maybe it's for areas like Russian, because this title treatment has very strong structure to it. It's a very geometric font, and it can create areas for alignment very clearly. So maybe we also say the same thing for your pull quote. Maybe always have reason for a party, you know, maybe it's underneath Russian, but want to align it to the stem of the R right here, or to the top part. So see where that works best, but just, you know, align this a little bit more intentionally, kind of like what we have here with the instructions paragraph. All right, but overall I do like how much the white space is around the recipe. See if whether or not things can get a little bit bigger, because this is a very contained area for your recipe that maybe things might look a little bit more intentional with the white space if it was just a tad bit larger. All right, see if that works. For your connotative, I like where this is going, White Russian. I'm not sure though if the honestly, if the italic is working to your advantage here, I would just keep this as a regular and not italicize white, because it's, you know, it's a little bit creating a weird movement. And I'm wondering if you're wanting to place your type like this on an angle, can you try it and see if it can work better as a all caps? So maybe it has a bit more structure. See if that works. Try it out. And then again, same thing with the alignment. Maybe align certain areas to the top area of that R, right? Same thing with ingredients. See if there's some areas for alignment, because you want to use your lines here that you have with your overall type treatment for your title as ways for you to guide your layout. So let's say if I turn on the ruler and start to place a few guides here. So what happens if I start to align certain things to my layout like so? So just be a little bit more intentional with where things are lining up, right? And maybe there's areas here that can be finessed a little bit better, or if there are areas here that can provide new opportunities for space, right? And I like this little addition of Russian in here, so because this lends itself well to the actual recipe itself. So, and you do have what I'm assuming is the translation over here, so it complements the other version nicely. You can always do black and white, you don't have to do color. The interesting thing about this is you keep it as different as possible, so that way you can definitely tell that there is a difference between the two. But I do like the idea of using a sans serif and a serif version for both the denotative and connotative. All right, let's move on next to Brittani. Brittani, I don't know if you changed your recipe, but I'm going to assume that this is your new recipe here, the shoyu ramen. So I'm going to critique that and save this as a previous version. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at what you've done for this week. So far this is looking very nice as a set. I like that you actually simplified your type treatment and your font choice, because this is looking a lot cleaner and easier to read. Now the only thing here is that it is way too small. So even if I do zoom in, the text, the white text over black background is very hard to read. As you can see, when it gets bold, it's a lot easier to read. Okay, so I would caution you to either make your text larger and also bolder, so a more heavier weight, if you will. And just be a little bit more intentional with your alignment. So make sure things are aligning nicely, like in this particular area here for your ingredients, and also for directions. See if there are other areas for alignment. So maybe it's right here, or maybe it's to the A or the M. But just be a little bit more intentional with where that alignment is. Show you the way to make it. Okay, I mean, if we're gonna read this as show you the way to make ramen, maybe make this a little bit more bold, or just a little bit larger, just so that has that intentional read, right? And maybe, we think we can align this a little bit better to the top of the R, which is very close to aligning, right? The only problem I have is this area right here. It's just very close to the edge, and I don't know if this is the right area for it, to be honest. See if there's a way to maybe simplify by placing it, let's bring back rulers. Maybe it starts right here and it gets broken up into two paragraphs to just nicely align with those two columns, but this is definitely very different than the rest of your layout here. And mind you, you can also bring other areas up, so maybe ingredients doesn't have to line up with directions here, right? So one way to do this is, you have some open space right here. So what happens if you bring up ingredients here, and maybe you'll have some room to add to serve right here, right? So think about your placement right here. I think overall, this is very beautiful with how much space you have. Just this is very distracting here, all right? It doesn't really mesh well with your overall layout that you have, right? And also think about this amount of space here. See if there's a way maybe to bring ramen closer so that you can bring this whole chunk closer in more, right? That's for your denotative. I'm going to assume this is your connotative, right? So show you ramen, show you homemade ramen. For some reason, it looks like this text is being stretched, and I don't know. It just seems a little bit off to me. But I like how you have your title treatment being very big and bold here. I would just make sure that it aligns in certain areas, and just make sure you bring in some of those treatments into more considered ways. So maybe it aligns with directions over here. So show you aligns with directions, and then maybe ramen maybe aligns with to serve. So see how that can work its way into your layout. And then over here, it looks like you have, I'm trying to figure out your grid, okay? But see if there's ways you can start to align things like a little bit more clearly. So that way things have more intentionality. Remember, you can edit down the amount of text that you have. I'm not going to grade you for the exact recipe. That's up to you. But this is very close to the edge right here. I'm wondering if there's a way to shave off some text. Like, it would just be nice if there's a way to just simplify the text and just create a little bit more white space. Like, I see how that just breathes a little bit better. And then if I were to bring this down a smidge, just a tad bit, that just has a little bit better white space overall. Because right now, when we bring this up to the way it was, this is very close to the edge right here. So we just want to make sure we avoid doing these types of moves right here. And we might need to just, bring things up or edit the text down. So, just be sure that that's an option that you can do, right? But overall, I think those two work very nicely as a set, the black and white contrast, the big type with the very strong directions happening. The alignment is very strong. So just little tweaks here and there for aligning and just spacing overall, right?